Welcome, everybody. Welcome to this very important conversation Kunle and I want to have with you today. And we want this to be more than a one-time conversation. Our focus today, and as we continue, is going to be on the importance of understanding the impact of poverty and food insecurity on mental health. And as we have this conversation, I want us to remember it is not just about poverty in terms of monetary things. And I am so excited to welcome Kunle into this conversation as my co-host.
Good to see you. Kass, so good to be here with you. It's always a pleasure, sharing a platform or a stage with you. Thank you for the opportunity.
It is my honor. I am so inspired by the work you do in Nigeria and across Africa. And, one of the conversations you and I always have, and that has always puzzled me, is Africa is the cradle of human civilization. Africa is one of the most resource-rich continents. It's not even a country, it's a whole continent. One of the most resource-rich continents in the world. And yet the people of Africa are in poverty, in material poverty, right? Yeah. And so how do we understand how we got there? And how do we help our people? Because regardless of what we look like today, we all came from there. So they are all our people, right? So how do we help our people, starting from Africa all the way into Asia, Latin America, all these poor countries that are resource rich? How do we help them? How do we help them get their power back so that they can rise up and own their inner power and their environmental power as one people? And that is what I'm excited about, Kunle.
Absolutely. I'm so excited about it because just like you said, until we get to that point in time that we take, that step and take the bull by the horn to decide how to get ourselves out of that, situation which you mentioned, which is poverty, which has also led a lot of people to food insecurity, which are the two key words that this particular discussion will focus around and the impact it has on mental health. But most importantly, how to build a community of people who are having like minds in getting, themselves out of poverty. And when we talk about this, it's something that had plagued Africa for a long period of time. Like you said in the introduction, Africa is one of the most blessed, one of the richest, continents across the globe. But it's highly ironical when you have all the resources and then the people who are living in that particular area are like the poorest. So that calls for a kind of questioning. And that is what will lead to some of the things that we will talk about in here today, just like you said, what are we going to do? But it is very important for us to know what it is, how it started, so that we can unravel the things that we can do in one way or the other. And most importantly now, create an organized approach to how we are going to help one another, because it's not something that we are going to do alone. And that's also one of the, things that have plagued us. Everybody is trying to be, in quote, all man for himself. And that cannot take us anywhere. So that's why I'm anticipating a great conversation in here today. Dr. Kass.
Perfectly put, Kunle. And I cannot relate enough to the fact that it's going to take all of us, right? It is truly going to take all of us. Life is not a journey we take alone. And somewhere along the way, we in poor countries that are resource rich, but that are economically poor, that are food insecure, we have been reduced to each man or woman for themselves And we've forgotten that if we do it together, we can all be better off. And how do we change that mindset and how do we get there is one of the things I want us to delve a little deeper, Kunle, because ultimately, if I am only fighting for what I can have and I'm not working with the others, even if I build a good business, even if I grow my own food, even if I do everything, how do I engage with the world? Because I can't eat all the food I grow. I can't use all the services and goods I produce. So if I'm going to take it to market and build my economic well-being, are the others in places where they are able to engage with me, or are they so poor that they're better off? In their mind, they're thinking, I'd rather take what Cass has and not have to worry about it because it's the same thing we're all competing for instead of the abundance mindset that there is enough, right? So somebody put it in our heads that there is not enough, you need to fight against each other. And while our people are fighting against each other, they are taking everything that is ours. So this was intentionally designed behavior and mindset. Somebody introduced to us. And generations later, we are still buying into it. Let's talk about
Mm. Absolutely, Dr. Cass, you're so right about that. Because as it is, it's not the lack of resources that is the problem in most poor nations. What is the problem might be the resourcefulness. And that is what people can do. And one of those things would be how can we make use of what we have to sustain our own economy, starting by us coming together in no matter how small form it is, and then grow a micro community and then form an ecosystem through it. And that ecosystem, in one way or the other, will begin to thrive and begin to sustain us in one way or the other. So the power of collaboration is one of the things that will go a long way in helping us. Just like you said, somehow there are, there are ways we have been pushed, and I like the word push because somehow we don't just find ourselves in this particular situation, or we don't desire to be in this kind of situation. So it might be an orchestration of a particular set of people who want to profit on our ignorance, who want to profit on our vulnerability in the past. And then you also have, some set of people who might be in power or in leadership, who also are feeding their greed, who are feeding their selfishness. And so the what has to be a national treasure had been cornered by a set of people, whereby a whole lot of people are pushed into poverty the more day in, day out. And then there is now a recycling of that poverty. And one thing about the poverty is not only the lack of good, I mean, it is quality food and quantity as well. What about poverty of the mind? And when people lack access to good education, when people lack access to good health, when people lack access to good recreation to help their mental health, to help them, they are subjected to stress, they are subjected to things that will debar them from fulfilling their potential over a long period of time. And considering even what the world is going through in the past few years, the pandemic struck, and then there are wars in some places that is having like a kind of effect on other parts of the world. Now, even if the Western world in one way or the other are feeling the effect, how much more countries in Africa? So you see how the cycle will, continue in one way or the other. So that is why it's important for us now to begin to see how we can create what, somebody in his book called the second revolution. That's Dr. Sam Adeyemi. And the second revolution this time around, it's not a revolution whereby people will hit the street and carry gun. I was reading in the news this morning how in Ghana, I mean, because of how bad the economy had gone, people want to set on the street and then hit the street and protest about how bad the economy had gone. Well, that might be a way, but what I found out as the most viable way is when we have the second revolution, which is changing the way we think and changing our approach to this thing in pulling ourselves out of poverty by coming together to do things that will help ourselves. How about looking into what we have, how to grow them, and how to buy them from ourselves? And that is how to support one another in a community such as ours. Dr. Kars.
I absolutely love where you took this conversation, Kunli, and I am intentionally wearing a flower and what I call kotu or bindi. And in my South Asian culture, we are a poor country, right? But one of the things that we are blessed to have is the entire South Asian continent fought against the colonials in a mindful way, meaning we never gave up our language, we never gave up our religion, we never gave up our culture, right? Language and religion and our traditions are our culture. And when we hang on to it, we have something that is ours, that is pride-filled. The flower is to remind us that Mother Nature has blessed us and there is plenty. And when I take a gift from her every day and put it on my hair, A, I'm blessed, and B, I'm rich. Right? Because I am blessed by nature and everything I need to live is already there, provided by Mother Nature. That's the symbolism. And I wear this puttu on my forehead to remind me everything I am doing, the universal energy, the universal power is watching. And so I need to live my life mindfully. And everybody who engages with me is also wondering, what is she wearing? What does that mean? And we have this conversation about conscious living, right? So this is to remind me that I have to live consciously. This is to remind me that there is abundance around me. Together, they symbolize prosperity and joy. And what if I start my day embracing that? Think about how the entire South Asian subcontinent got its independence from the British. They didn't fire a bullet. They didn't have a revolutionary war. They did an economic boycott. To this day, all of South Asia, women wear 6 yards of fabric wrapped around, we call it a sari, and men wear 3 yards of fabric, which is called a sarong, right? Gandhi introduced the concept of satyagraha, that means nonviolence, peace movement through fasting. And then weave our own clothes and let's wear it. They can take our cotton, they can make us work and create those cotton clothing, but they can't make us buy it, right? That's the one thing they can't make us do. They can't make us buy it. So we completely boycotted their economic ball game by refusing to buy it and taking the rest of the cotton and weaving our own fabric. If you look at the Indian flag, the fabric weaving hand machine is the center of that flag. Gandhi, who was an attorney in South Africa, suit wearing, British educated, he gave all of that and came back to India and he only wore white 3 yards of fabric he wove, didn't even wear a shirt, right? So how do we create a movement that comes from the mindset that speaks to the heart and truly embraces everybody? And how do we do it in a sustainable way that we don't kill ourselves in the process? Because a victory with guns have no winners. It only has losers on all sides. How do we get past that violence-based behavior and embrace the power inside of us, right? Every culture, every ancient civilization believes that the power of the being is in the soul, right? So what if we embrace the power of that soul, that light in that soul, and that same light is inside of you? When I greet like this, I am reminding myself and reminding you that the divine within me sees the divine within you. And both are divine, come from a place of love, acceptance, compassion, and embracing each other for our shared prosperity, right? So when we can greet each other that way, and we truly see the value of each other, hopefully chances are our mindset is going to help us work together, because guess what? It's a huge world. Mother Nature has given us so much. I can't eat everything that is on the face of this earth. I can't serve every creature on the face of this earth. But together, we can eat more and we can serve more. What if we flip the switch? And what is it going to take to flip the switch? That is the question I ask Kunle, you and the others here. What can we do collectively? Because we're not going anywhere alone. We are not going anywhere alone. So together, how do we step forward and how do we create that mindset of abundance? Because poverty of the spirit, poverty of the soul, poverty of the mind is the unhealthy part.
Mm, mm. Absolutely spot on, Dr. Kass. And I mean, as you can see, we have people representing Nigeria here, and I can see someone representing South Africa here. I mean, it's about coming together and it's about time. And that is why, I mean, this should be like a movement. I mean, the time has come for us to realize that doing it alone does not help any of us. And that had been the problem. That had been like the bottom line of our problem. Because if everybody wants to, that instinct that I just want to survive is a siloistic kind of thinking where you feel that you can do it on your own. And the problem that we have on ground is massive, is huge. But the power of the people is what will solve the problem of food insecurity, which is caused by poverty. And when we talk about poverty, like we said earlier on, it's not only lack of money or material things, it's also the lack of knowledge. It's also the lack of, the right mindset to approach whatever issue that we are facing. And sometimes it doesn't mean that we have to be going the same way. But on our journey to fulfilling purpose, there must be an intersection of purpose, which will be the unifying factor. There must be something that is like the common denominator for us. And one of those things is the fact that we all belong to the same race called the human race, and we share the same love. And like you said, nature has a way of, of blessing us, and we are blessed already. But because of the gap that had been created by a set of people over a period of time, because the world has what it needs to thrive, and everybody should have access to thrive right in the world. I mean, how come do we have people who want to grow at the expense of other people? How come we have people who want to thrive while they are treading on other people in one way or the other? That is absolutely, irrational. But until we come together now to show how it should be, coming in a community. I mean, for example, you have people who you encourage to grow, to plant, maybe agriculture. But when the products come, you will choose to go and import and buy things from the West. So how will poverty stop? So these are some of the things that we need to start imbibing the culture now of coming together and then being our own, our own stronghold, our own power, our own force, because nothing can stop the force of the people.
Brilliantly said, Conlay. And ultimately, we ourselves, individually and collectively, embody the solution, right? And right now, I am living in the country of Belize. It's a Central American country, very poor. And it's not only poor, there is no family structure. So men don't stay in a marriage even if they got married. Men believe that manhood is about having a wife and few mistresses and a few girlfriends. And so when all of them have your children, how can you be economically viable? They complain about not having money. Well, you can't afford one woman, why do you have 10? It's really not a reflection of your manhood, it's a reflection of your inability to think and figure out what you need to thrive, right? So how do we take a culture that has no fabric or a foundation for social structure, Family is the fundamental unit of a social structure. So if there is no family and you don't believe in education and you have land, or even if you don't have land, you don't want to look at ways to become independent, how do we break the cycle? And one of the things I am doing is working with a couple of individuals from here. We've started a group called Legacy Belize, and we have started, as part of Legacy Belize, a Usher Henry incubator initiative. So we're doing incubator programs where we are getting youth from the age of 5 to 18 get involved in collecting all the recycled plastic, okay? And we're having the farmers donate soil. We're having the agricultural department, agricultural ministry give us seedlings. And we're also getting the environmental and sustainability department get involved in providing us some of the tools and education. And we're teaching the kids how to grow plants in containers if you don't have land, okay? So now for the last 4 months, kids have been growing radish and cucumber and celery and lettuce and all of these crops. Now they're exchanging, they're beginning to exchange. We're teaching them how to keep track of how much money you're contributing to the family. Every cucumber your family eats, you're saving $1. So we're teaching them an entrepreneurial mindset of thinking of this as a business, you're contributing to the bottom line. Now we're going to move into how do you take that extra plastic and how do you convert it to Christmas ornaments and gifts to give people? You don't have to buy Western produced things to celebrate Christmas. Make your own stuff and sell, right? And the paints are being donated by the sustainability department. And then we're also going to go forward. We taught them how to use household goods and things to make pesticides and fertilizers, and how to do composting. You have everything you need to put food on the table. And in this process, we are giving them the mindset of think outside the box. And we're also teaching them, if you had extra cucumber, what can you do with it? If you had extra cucumber, zucchini, what can you do with it? So make zucchini muffin, make zucchini bread. I am teaching 6, 7 kids at a time on how to cook, how to make some things. And when you sell cucumber, you only get $1. If you sell zucchini, you only get $1. But if you sell a zucchini muffin, you can get $3. Now we're teaching them value add, right? So as we're teaching the kids, parents are learning. It's hard to change the parents. It's hard to teach the parents because they won't listen. But if we bring kids in and they're excited and they're learning and they are going home and sharing with the parents, then change happens from the bottom up. And so I would love to take what we are doing and repurpose it in a way that it works for Africa. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. What we are doing in Central America and the Caribbean can be repurposed for Africa, can be repurposed for Asia. Let's put our hands together. Let's connect these kids. Let's build communities, because together we truly can transform.
Wow, that's massive, Dr. Cass. That is massive. I mean, first and foremost, let me commend what you're doing. And because it is, I mean, it's transgenerational. The impartation is transgenerational. And one thing about what you just described is the fact that it goes directly to the people who need it the most. And I mean, like you said, this is something that we can replicate in Africa, starting from a community, and then we watch it grow. And one thing about it is, it's when the impact is felt, that particular program reproduces itself, because people now will begin to know the value of what it means to grow, what it means to be entrepreneurial, and then what it also means to support one another, because that is very, very important. If you're growing lettuce, you're growing cucumber, you're growing, vegetables, and people who are buying from you are people within that your community who are also producing something else, and then you are buying from them too, then that's how that particular program will regenerate itself. And in one way or the other, you are growing the economy, and then you are also growing the people. I mean, that's even what comes first. When you grow the people, then it's sustainable. I mean, you have what in Africa, you have what government will tell you they want to do, that they want to give loans for agriculture and other things. What you find out is the fact that people who get those things are not necessarily people who need them. They are still people within the same, circle, who will just get those loans, then divert it to do something else. But when you do it on a community base and grow the people who need it, the impact will definitely be felt. And then it will lead us towards, eradicating poverty and food insecurity.
And the unseen but magical byproduct is creating a community of young people who are emotionally aware, who are building emotional intelligence. They are seeing the benefit of working together. So now the kids in my neighborhood, if they know, when they are bored, they text me. They all have phones, by the way. They may be poor, but they all have phones, right? They text me and they say, Dr. Cass, I'm bored. Can I come over? Right? And I say, okay, let me think about a project to do, because every time they come, we have to work on a project. And then I said, let me also think about what I should make for you to eat, because they also love having something to eat, right? So the other day, he came over, we were talking about what can we do with recycled plastic. And we talked about how do we take those little containers and cut it and make a decorative pot and then put seedlings. And what if we create plants, grow plants, and have each child give their mother a flowering plant for Christmas, right? A, you don't have to buy. B, it's a living thing. And beauty and the symbolic nature of the living love and nurturing of a mother, right? So we're teaching children all of that. And then I made them brownies. They'd never heard of brownies, never ate brownies. In fact, they said, you're not scraping the pot right. Let me scrape it with my fingers, because my fingers can go into the pot very nicely and I'll take every grain out. So they scraped and they licked the pot because it was that good to them. But fast forward, we had flooding and my gate was stuck. I didn't have the tools. And one of the kids said, what's going on? I said, I don't have the tool. The gate is stuck. They called all the other kids. All of them brought all the tools their fathers had in the tool shed. Fathers are all at work. The kids brought all the tools. And they worked with me to get my gate working. Okay. And while we were getting done, a 12-year-old ran home and brought me a handful of candy. And he gave it to me. So I picked one. He said, oh no, that whole thing is for you. You've had a bad day. I want you to have a happy day. Think about these children. They are teaching us together. We don't know what tools we need, but together, if we put all our tools together, we truly can figure out a solution. And while we figure out a solution, let's make sure we're all happy, right? Imagine the power of that message of children who are between the ages of 8 and 13. How powerful is that? And how much we as adults can learn from that. To me, that is moving to see. That is the change we can bring about through children in our society.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, the one word that keep, coming to my mind when you were saying it is just the word support system. We just have to support one another or create a support system in the society. And just like you said, and the best people to start with are those younger generations who grew with it. I mean, a whole lot of the elderly ones, they are shaped already. So it's difficult to really change the way they think sometimes, but it's very easier with the kids, just like you mentioned. And I mean, for people who are from Nigeria and other parts of Africa, sometimes our looks, sometimes when we smile, does not really reflect what is going on the inside. The economy is bad. It's tough for a lot of people. So the time has come for us to, throw away our defenses and be real with ourselves and see the need for us to really start building our future. I don't know, people will feel like maybe it's politics or whatever will solve the problem. Listen, it's not politics to solve problems, it's the people. If you take people out of the equation, then what you have will be failure at the end of the day. Whatever structure you build will be driven by people. People are the ones that drive whatever structure we build. So informing support system from for one another, that is what will take us out of whatever situation we have found ourselves, be it poverty, food insecurity, and this is key. And what you've said can be replicated in Africa, and we can look into it, how we can meet once a month and discuss how we can bring this particular thing to fruition, so that we create, an incubation, an incubation for those kids, and then we come together to see how to build a community through it.
Absolutely. And I love the idea of creating sister programs in impoverished communities, because we may be financially poor because other people took what is ours, but our spirits are not poor. Our mindset is not poor. Our capacity to change the way we live, that is not poor. So how do we tap into that richness? And how do we flip the script so that we truly understand I am enough, and together we're more than enough? How do we change the world? How do we make this better? And how do we build it better? Because what happens to us, what other people did to us, shouldn't define us, right? How we live our life and the choices we make define us. So if we start from there, and keeping in mind, happiness and peace are not things other people can give us, right? It's something that we each have to find inside of us. Steve Jobs at his deathbed was not happy and did not have peace, but he had all the money in the world, right? And he talked about the importance of him not having human connections and building a relationship with his own child, right? You have that on one side. On the other, I've worked for Warren Buffett, and look at a business like Warren Buffett. He owns Fruit of the Loom underwear. He owns See's Candy. He owns Duracell battery. He owns a rail car company. He owns a whole bunch of machine making equipment, including coffee machines and food slices. He owns a training school for private pilots. He owns a cleaning service for private planes, right? He owns home sale, a real estate type business. So he owns a whole host of companies, including a huge share in Coke. Every Warren Buffett owned company is stocked with Coke products. What are we learning from that? If you had 10 businesses and every one of those 10 businesses did business with each other, you grow and you keep the wealth in the family. Why aren't we taking that lesson from the rich and using it? They're not competing with each other. They're lifting each other up. So if I do coaching and you do emotional development and mental health, and somebody else does accounting, and somebody else does marketing, and somebody else actually helps people think about how to set up business and supports legal work, what if we all 10 of us got together and supported each other and lifted each other up? And when I get a client, I bring it to all of you, that client, so that we can all collectively serve that client, and we increase the power of our circle, and we lift each other up even more. And that is the mindset of abundance instead of the mindset of poverty or mindset of scarcity. What is it going to take us to get there? And Kunle, if you're open to it, let's open it up as a conversation and see what our live audience group here wants to do, wants to participate in, and how can we build a better, stronger Africa? Because when Africa is strong, then we can take that and cross-pollinate across others. Let's start in one place. We're doing it in Central America. Let's start it in Africa.
Absolutely, Dr. Kass. And just like you said, we have great people who are joining here from Nigeria. I see Piwe from South Africa. I think a couple of people might still join from Ghana. Okay, so Pastor Abayomi, I already has something to say. So if you want to say anything, you can just unmute yourself based on what we have said so far. Like I said, this is going to be a movement. This is going to be like a community, a coming together whereby we can help each other and replicate it in whatever community and then make us thrive all together. That's just the simplicity in it.
Thank you, Kunle. Piwi, go ahead. You had your
All
hand.
right.
Yes. You have to unmute yourself.
Good day to you, Dr. Castri.
Good day to
Good
you.
day, Kunle Pelemo.
Good day, sir. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you for this opportunity to be part of this show. And I've been diligently listening to all your, contributions. And let me quickly say this, that you and Dr. Kashri, it was splendid the way you have been talking about this topic. Let me also comment on your synergy, the way you have really synergized your points. It's awesome. Well done to you guys. From African perspective or African point of view, let me say this. I want to borrow a few lines from Michael Jackson's song, which says, "Make it a better place for you and for me and the entire human race." There are so many things that are happening in the world today that when we look at it critically, it can be traced to the lack of unity and harmony. Because let me cite an example. Every community, every family, there is this mindset of trying to solve problems on your own. The togetherness, the spirit of togetherness is lacking. If you look at our leaders, you see all these traces of lack of, spirit of unity in them. Some of them, when they get to office, when they get to power, they don't want to leave. In fact, instead of allowing others to have, opportunity to, express or impact their generation, you see them wanting to hold to power for as long as they would. And these are the issues that indirectly others are learning from. Let me also say that thank God in Africa, we are in a tropical area. Down here, we have so many environmental issues like flood, erosion, and a lot of things happening. Just like Dr. Castri said, you will discover that people these days, with the advent of technology, when people have problems, instead of us gathering together to help ourselves, people bring out their phones. They want to cover the events that are happening. Maybe someone has accident, there is flood in someone's house. Instead of helping, what you see people do is that people want to make money from that. Maybe when they record that on their phone and they post it on their platform, it will attract many viewers. So people will come to view, they will look at those things, and then, so it is a very poor mentality. It is a very poor mentality, which, in fact, one of the things that this kind of programs, should help a lot to actually tackle. So let me stop there and allow others to contribute. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pastor. We appreciate your insights, and you are so right. We've been taught that the individual is more important than the collective, right? So that is a Western ideology that was given to us so that we are busy competing with each other while we are getting robbed blind, right? It was by design fed to us. Just the same way we are fed processed food so that our body and our health and our well-being declines. So what if we grow our own food and we think for ourselves? And the simple fact that I didn't come into this world alone. My mother, I don't care how good, bad, indifferent, poor, educated, uneducated she was. Each of us came into this world because our mother carried us to term for 9.5 months. So we don't come alone. When we are done in this world, it's going to take at least 4 people to carry us, whether we're going to get cremated or buried. Somebody is going to take us there. So we don't come in alone. We don't leave alone. So why do you think in between we can? And what if we start creating the mindset that watch an ant? One ant cannot do anything, but together they can move a mountain, they can take down an entire house, they can take down an entire community, right? Water, it gently flows, right? You don't even see where it's going, it's just flowing. Over time, mountains have become hills, have become rocks into pebbles and sand. There's nothing left. The gentle running water completely and totally takes control and does what it does. So what if we lived like ants? What if we lived like water? And together, not one drop at a time, but together we flow. What if we just choose flow?
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, Felicia.
All right. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Doctor. I've really enjoyed myself listening to you. You're full of depth and wisdom. Kunle Pelemo, thank you for organizing and being a part, and thank you for inviting us. You see, what you're discussing and talking about is deep. Honestly, the human existence is really dependent on togetherness. Here in Africa, a tree doesn't make a forest. So we need each other. We need every one of us, to come together so that we'll be able to survive together as one. You see, when people are concerned about their neighbor, there is an expression of thoughtfulness, expression of willingness to share what they have, be it money, be it riches, be it knowledge, be it the agricultural understanding. That is how we can actually make things happen for others. That is how we can make things happen for the people close to us, people within our needs. So this initiative, this community that we are bathing, I really want to be a part of it. It's really going to shape the orientation and the way that we think. And then, when we make things happen for others, we are trying to create something, and that is perpetuity, wherein, every one of us will leave a legacy that somebody else will be able to work on, somebody else will be able to live on. But Doctor, I just want to quickly say something. Mm-hmm. Now that you have this kind of a program where you are, I just want to ask you, maybe towards the end of this program, you can just, pinpoint around the major barriers that you're having in achieving these goals, so that when we are going to be replicating it in Africa, we have a system in place that will actually help us, to solve the problem before the problem itself comes on board. Thank you. This is my contribution.
Beautifully stated and wonderfully insightful question. How do you pronounce your name again? Educate me on that.
My name is Folusho.
Folusho. Thank you.
Folusho. Thank you.
Folusho. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. I want to make sure I pronounce your name right and acknowledge your question. And yes, the adults have a mindset that is not going to change. Even the adults who come to volunteer because they want to help the community, they will tell me in front of the kids, you're not going to change anything. Our politicians are not going to change. And my answer is that is the mindset that continues to perpetuate this. But do you think these children who know better are going to settle for it? In 15 years, these children are going to be in charge. They don't care what you did. They only care what you destroyed. Right? And so if it's too late for us to learn new tricks and to be viable, why can't we give them all the hope, all the tools, and all the abilities, and then pass on our legacy and watch them thrive? Because the world was not built based on the mistakes of the past, and the people who created the problems are not the ones who are going to solve it. It's going to take a new mindset. So do me a favor, stop being negative in front of the children because they don't need to see it. And they're only going to believe that the adults don't have it. I take a page from my own life. I grew up in the middle of a 30+ year bloody civil war in a country that was my people's. And it was a 3-nation island. British left as a single nation and took my people's nation and gave it to an immigrant population. And they raped us, killed us, took all our property and chased us out. Okay, so growing up, we knew that the adulthood didn't care. Either they were scared, they were filled with hate, or they were filled with greed. Those are the only 3 kinds of adults we encountered. So we as children decided we're not going to count on adults. I left my home country, took my siblings, left my home, my country, my parents, and I went to India and raised a family on my own. And those of us who thrive today did it all on our own, but not necessarily on our own, because when we went to other countries, people there embraced us with love. They saw that we were children and they made our lives possible, right? But we couldn't do it in that environment where there was toxicity. We needed to move out of that environment to build. So this analogy of don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, change the bathwater. If the adults are not willing, then move the children into a different space and empower them. And children, almost all of us, we respond to music, we respond to food, we respond to joy and laughter and happiness, and we all respond to love. Even animals respond to these things, right? So it is inherently in our creature nature to gravitate towards these things. So what if we embrace the young with love and hope and give them optimism and give them the tools? We don't have to tell them what to think. They will figure it out, because the things they're going to figure out 15 years from today, we can't even imagine, right? So what if we just give them the power, hand them the power? And I always tell the politicians, if you can't help, at least do no harm. It's okay. Come, support us. I always give them a platform so that they can share their message, because they all want to take the credit, right? I don't care who gets the credit. I really want the children to have an opportunity. So if I can leave my ego out at the door, right? And anybody who wants their ego stroked, I'm happy to stroke it all day. As long as they're here to serve the children, as long as they're going to help us get scholarships, as long as they're going to help us get plants and plots for the children to grow, not just food, but their entire being. So my impediments that I've run into is adults don't believe it's possible. Politicians think that they can come in and take the credit, right? And they won't help. And sometimes if you are having a bigger influence than they want to, they think you're going to take over their seat. It's like, I have an advantage going in. I'm not Belizean. I'm not a citizen. I don't even get to vote. I don't get to run for office. So I am able to remove all of those impediments and say, you know what? I am here to serve your people because your children are also my children. Let's do it together. And to the extent we can show up without ego, little by little, we can change people's mindsets, because all the businessmen and all the politicians are men, but they have wives, they have mothers, they have daughters, they have sons, they have children, right? And so somebody in their family is going to nudge them to tap into their humanity. Allow that to naturally happen. And I say, keep the door open. Don't shut anybody out and don't corner anybody so that they have no opportunity to save face. I don't need to call anybody out. I just keep the possibilities open and invite people. And when one or two people are willing to support, we praise them, we raise them up, and we showcase them as the embodiment of what it's supposed to be, so that others are invited to step in and share that light. And I don't need the light, right? I don't need the spotlight on me. I have the light inside of me. I want my light to light up the path. And anybody who wants the spotlight, come. But once they come because of the spotlight, chances are they are fundamentally human too. They will transform, give them that time. Does that answer the question, Felicia?
Yes, you've done justice to it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So do you want to add anything to that, Kunle? Go ahead.
Absolutely, Dr. Kaz. I've been listening to your submissions and they've been wonderful. And we've got some people who just joined. Just a little recap. We've been talking about, food insecurity and the poverty in Africa. And basically, we don't just talk about the problem, we're looking at how to create a lasting solution to it. And one of the things that we were, deliberating on how to create an incubation whereby we come to grow a community and then replicate, that kind of a practice all over, different places in Africa. And I mean, at a point in time, it's not even going to be us that will do that. The particular program will replicate itself, because that's even how nature grows. One good thing replicates itself all over, and people will begin to see how impactful that is and begin to copy that model. And just like Dr. Cass said, it's not about one person taking the spotlight. It's about creating a lasting solution that will solve a particular problem that we want to solve. One of the reasons why most politicians do what they do is because they just want to take spotlight. So when they create a program, you find out that when they leave, that program lives with them. Or if it doesn't live with them, another person who comes will say, this is the program created by this person. I cannot live under the spotlight of this person. So they will eradicate that, start another, wasting the resources of the people, creating programs after programs to just fulfill their own selfish desire or selfish gratification. But in this, we want to see how to make it people oriented, people focused. What I used to say is, when politicians want to talk about nation building, what they say will just be in print, in newspaper, in news. But if that particular thing they are saying betrays the tangible expression of how it is felt by the people in the populace, that's absolutely lies. So, and we can see it's in abundance in Africa. Where leaders would say, yeah, our economy is doing well, it's doing better. And then yet we have people who don't even have hope of the next meal to eat, people who are living under the bridge, people who don't have shoes to put on their feet, and a whole lot of things like that. So what we are trying to do is to take personal responsibility, because that is very important. Take that personal responsibility into our hands and try to see how we can do something within our immediate environment, how to help ourselves grow in one way or the other. And Dr. Cass made mention of coming to replicate what is already in existence in Belize, where she is right now, helping children right there, teaching them how to grow things and how to also be creative in order to save money and make money, at the same time. how to replicate that in different parts of Africa, and then we go to Asia. And in one way or the other, that's how to change the world. Doing things that are within our own capacity, not looking for things that will put us in the spotlight to take glory from, but doing it in order just to affect humanity and humanity alone.
I couldn't have summed that up any better, Kunle. Thank you so much. As we come to the end of the hour, my humble request to this community and my African brothers and sisters is that what if we continue to have this conversation every third Wednesday of the month, and we build on it, we come with ideas, and we look at ways to flip the mindset and go from mental health to mental abundance and mental wealth, and create a community that is able to become a contagion. COVID is not the only one that can spread contagiously. Goodness can. Human compassion can. Our ability to ennoble one another and change what was done to us. We don't have to live passive. We can intentionally choose to thrive, and we can intentionally choose to make our world better. And if each of us make our little world better, imagine when you connect all the dots. So this is not an individual journey. This is not an ego-driven journey. This is not a journey where there is credit, but there is truly fulfillment, and there is truly the power of collaboration. So I, along with Kunle, invite you all to join us every third Wednesday, the same hour. Come prepared to show your faces on camera. Let's get to know one another. Let's build. And I am open to coming to the different countries in Africa and working with you to get some of these things kicked off. I will bring my resources to bear if you are open to working with me to help your respective communities better, because they're all our children. This is our world, and we are one family.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Kaz.